Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
Hey, Aubrey. I'm feeling pretty good today. How are you?
Excellent. Quick question for you. Are
Yes.
there any words in English that you have difficulty spelling?
Yeah, sometimes it's those words like that have a in the past tense that have an L at the end, like canceled. That one, I'm fine with the present tense, cancel, easy. But then I always wonder, do I add two L's for the past tense or just one L?
And
And
those
it
are
turns
especially
out-
tricky because
Yeah.
it's spelled differently in British English and American
Yes.
English. So we've seen it both
Yes.
ways.
So it's kind of those kinds of words that I struggle with, the British
Same.
American differences. So
Absolutely. And we know this is a struggle for all of you preparing for IELTS. We got a great question about this. So we are going to
Yes.
answer it and dive into some of the words that could trip you up on the IELTS listening exam because they're
Awesome.
spelled differently when they're a noun and when they're a verb.
Oh my gosh. And here is the student question that came in. Aubrey, do we know where this came in from? Was this YouTube?
This was in one of our webinars, but we
Oh,
don't have
cool.
the student's name.
We love the webinars. Awesome. All right. So in IELTS listening, should healthcare be written as one word or healthcare as two words? Which one is correct? Good question.
Such a great question. This is especially tricky because healthcare as two words is more common. You'll see this more often, but it does depend on the meaning of the sentence, right? Healthcare as two words is a noun referring to things that people or doctors do to care for themselves, but healthcare does exist as one word, right?
Yeah, when we're referring to a system, right, Aubrey, which is a little, there's a nuanced difference there.
Yes, it's very subtle. So this would be really tricky if this were on the IELTS listening exam. You would need to be listening for the context. Like, what is the actual meaning? Are we talking about self-care, healthcare, or are we talking about the healthcare system? And they would be spelled differently. And in British English, this actually works differently. Healthcare as one word is often used as a noun to describe care. So the IELTS exam actually would accept both of these as correct because American and British spelling are both accepted as correct on IELTS. So that's the good news.
Yeah, that brings up kind of a question, Aubrey. Do you know do we need to be consistent across an essay? If we decide we're writing in British English with British spelling, can we then switch in another paragraph to an American spelling, or is it advisable to continue
That's
with the
a great
same
question. And no, it doesn't matter. You can use American and British spelling throughout the essay, switch back and forth. If you feel like it will throw you off at all, then try to stick with one, learn one and stick with it. But the examiner is not going to decrease your score if you spell like color with American English spelling and then canceled later with British English spelling. You can use both in one essay or on one listening exam. Both are allowed.
Okay, really good to know. Good to know. And before we go into the rest of the episode, anything else we need to know here, Aubrey?
Yeah, we're going to share some of these really tricky words that exist, just like healthcare, as a noun and a verb. And these words would need to be written correctly on the listening exam. So usually you're going to write it just like you hear it, but for some of these words, IELTS could trip you up, could try to trick you, and you would need to be paying attention to, is it being used as a noun or a verb? Because I'll spell it differently depending on which one is used.
Honestly, I think these are things that native speakers also, I think my partner just asked me like last week, whether it's a verb should be separated or together. And I said, it depends on whether it's a noun or a verb, right?
Exactly. Give me the whole sentence and then I'll know how to spell it.
Tell me what you want to say. And it's true. I mean, so very educated native speakers are making these mistakes too. So this is really important to know about. But first, let's get into first things first, Aubrey, thanking our reviewers, those who took the time to go leave a rating and review. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So a huge thank you to Alala from China, who left us a 5-star review. 123456 from China, also 5-star review. Apple XUEP, 5 stars. Guys, no matter what your rating or review is, we love to see that you've taken the time to go over and leave us that rating and review. So go ahead, tell us what you think about the show. Right, Aubrey? We love seeing them.
Thank you for reviewing the show. We do appreciate it, and it does help others find us as well. It keeps us high in those lists so that others see our podcast. So thank you for every review and rating.
Yes, every single one matters. So let's go through it. Let's break down these examples, Aubrey. This is going to be incredibly useful today. Right?
Yes, very interesting. Okay, so the first one is setup. So, of course, this is as a noun. It is written as one word, setup. What would be an example, Lindsay?
So an example here would be the setup for the carnival took several hours. So again, that is one word, together. Setup is together.
Exactly. Or we'll often, if you are thinking of dates, when someone sets you up with a friend, that's a verb, but what happens, the setup, that is a noun, right? So you have to think about how is it being used as a sentence? Is it the thing being described, or is it the action of setting someone up?
And sometimes this can change context very subtly. How did you meet? It was a setup. How did you meet? We were set up, right?
Good. Yes, exactly. Right. You have to think about that. It was a setup. That's a noun. It was a thing. We were set up. That's a past tense verb. Something happened. Right.
Yes. Good. I
So
love
another
it.
example with the verb, we need to set up the projector. So not only is this about dates and setups, it's also about putting something together, turning it on, right? You set up your computer, you set up everything on your table, and then it's being used as a verb.
Exactly. So that one is 2 words, right, Aubrey? 2 words.
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing to keep in mind here, it doesn't matter for the listening exam. When you use these words, not listening, speaking, the speaking exam, when you use these words in your speaking answers, they sound exactly the same. You don't have to think about it at all. But if it's the listening exam or your IELTS essays, you do have to think about how is it being used. It'll be spelled differently.
Super important point. You're right. It's not like we're pausing between, we were set up. We're not pausing like that. We were set up, right?
Exactly. They sound exactly the same, which is what makes it more difficult to know how to spell them.
Yes, we love English so much. Yay.
Right.
Let's go into another example of backup, right? You should create a backup before updating your computer. And I think most of us have learned this the hard way, haven't we?
Ooh, yes, I certainly have, right? We need to, but then I was about to use it as a verb. You need to back up your computer before restarting. That would be written as 2 words because it's a phrasal verb.
Exactly. And breakdown. So here we go. Here's the breakdown of the budget. And that kind of means just a synopsis.
Right, exactly. When you're giving this synopsis of the budget, we also use this as a noun when we're talking about like a mental breakdown. And we use this to exaggerate a lot. I had a mental breakdown. We really just mean I was really frustrated.
Yeah. Most of the time, if it's serious, it means you're in the hospital, right?
Exactly. Right.
So yeah, people use that in a more toned down notion. But what about as a verb?
Yeah. So for example, you might say, let's break down the data by category. So that's where we're itemizing each thing. We're breaking it apart. We'll say, let's break it down. And then we also use this like for camp. If you're camping, you say, let's break down camp means let's take down the tent, put everything away. So we use this as a phrasal verb as well. And then it would be written as 2 separate words.
Yeah, usually that's my role. I'm the one who has to break down the tent.
You break
for some
down the
reason.
tent.
I always end up doing that. Good stuff. So next example is takeoff. So the takeoff was delayed due to weather.
Yeah, so
One
here
word.
it's a noun, right? The takeoff, the planes, we know leaving, that's a noun. The takeoff was delayed, but we also use this as a phrasal verb. The plane will take off in 10 minutes, 2 words.
Yes, good. All right, excellent. Okay, Aubrey, we're back from break. There's still more of them. There's a lot of them in the English language.
And these, I only pulled the most common ones that are most likely to come up on the listening exam, but there are more. So you could Google like words that are spelled differently as a noun and a verb, and there's quite a few. And it is good to be aware of these in case they come up on your IELTS listening exam.
100%. Next one is makeup, right? I don't wear a lot of makeup, right?
Yes, exactly.
So that's the stuff that women put on their face, right? Sometimes men when they're going on TV, for example. I think some men wear eyeliner on TV. Yep, I think they do.
This always reminds me of the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton, where the Joker had put these like poisonous chemicals in makeup, and so people are avoiding wearing it. And it shows the newscasters on TV with no makeup and how different they look than how newscasters normally look. It's quite funny.
It's so true. Interesting.
With the lights, the bad lighting.
Oh God, awful. Yeah, for sure. And then how does it become a verb, Aubrey?
Yeah, so as a phrasal verb, you might say they were able to make up after their fight. And so this means to, forgive each other, talk it out. We make up with a person. Interestingly, this is also an adjective. If you say, like, I took a makeup exam, we're describing the exam, and that also would be written as one word. So this one's even more tricky because it can exist as a noun, an adjective, and a verb.
It can exist in a lot of ways, or even coming back to the physical stuff that people put on their face. You could have that in a verb form. You could say she was all made up for the scene, for the filming.
Yes, you might see it in past as the past participle, made up, and that would be a verb as well.
Wow. Okay. Next one is login. So yeah, sometimes even I'll look at this and I'll think, okay, yeah, what do I say, log in or login?
Me too. I'm like, log in. This is tricky. How do I
Probably
write this?
Because it's a new one in our language,
Exactly.
For the noun form, I forgot my login info. So that's one word.
Exactly. If it's used as a noun, this is my login. I forgot my login, then it's written as one word. But if you're using it as a verb, for example, you need to log in to access the site.
Yes.
And like you said, Lindsay, I'm sort of separating it there when I speak, but when we say it, we just say you need to log in to access the site.
Yeah, but it goes by the same rule. So I don't know why I struggle with it. I just struggle with it for some reason. Yeah. But hopefully our listeners now will not. So there you go.
At least these all follow that same pattern where as a verb, as they're a phrasal verb, they're written as two words. As a noun, they're written as one word.
Yep. And that also goes for the last one. Click here to complete your log out. So,
yep, and that is written as one word, log out. Yeah. And then we see it more often as a phrasal verb for sure. Don't forget to log out when you're done. That would be written as two words.
Wow, a lot of examples. I think we really nailed it for our listeners here. We really brought this point home, Aubrey, don't you think?
Yes, I agree. And more than anything, this is just something that's really good to be aware of. I've seen students take practice exams and not understanding why they're missing it because they're not aware that these words exist as both a noun and a verb, and they're spelled differently.
Yes, I love it. So glad we went into this. So go and keep this rule in mind as you do your daily writing, not even just for IELTS, but as you're writing emails, you're speaking to people, envision how you might spell it. And then when it comes time for your next IELTS practice, you'll be ready. Right?
Absolutely. Yes, we use these all the time. So you'll need these for life after IELTS as well, at work, in your communication. Everyone will be impressed if you're using the right form.
Yes, love it. Good stuff. Guys, don't forget to go over and check out our course, 3 Keys IELTS. Go to allearsenglish.com/KEYS to get the step-by-step system created by a former examiner, which cuts your prep time in half, allows you to go straight to the point, not waste your precious time.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the course, allearsenglish.com/keys.
All right. Good stuff. See you soon, Aubrey.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lindsay. Bye.